Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
The Kim Collins Athletic Stadium and the Nevis Athletic Stadium will be energized by SKN's top athletes for the 2024 TDC Track and Field Inter-School Championship. Be a part of the historic multi-city event when SKN Athletics bring you 4 days of track and field on Thursday, March 14th and Friday, March 15th at the Kim Collins Athletic Stadium, and Saturday, March 16th and Sunday, March 17th at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. Saturday tickets are $30 preferred seated, $15 for adults on the ground, and $10 for children on the ground. Sunday tickets are $40 preferred seated, $20 for adults on the ground, and $15 for children on the ground. Tickets are available at City Drugstore Nevis and Digicel St. Kitts. It's energy, energy, energy for the 2024 TDC Track and Field Inter-School Championships. March 14th to March 17th at the Kim Collins Athletic Stadium and the Nevis Athletic Stadium. Sponsored by TDC, the Department of Sports St. Kitts, and the Department of Sports Nevis. Energy!
People make the world go round. Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to another edition of Inside the News. I'm German Abel, sitting in again today here on the program. You know, when we come on with Inside the News, we tend to go beyond the talk of politics and find solutions to the issues affecting and impacting us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, across the region and internationally. So, you know, it's a bright day in Bastia. No cruise ships in today, so it's a relatively quiet day in downtown Bastia. We start off with looking at some of the major issues that made the news this week. Locally, we saw that Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew confirmed that the passport of an economic citizen who is allegedly connected to a $5 billion fraud scheme in relation to Bitcoin, her passport was deactivated. Also, the Prime Minister confirmed St. Kitts and Nevis' position when it comes to the CARICOM Free Movement Initiative. In the region, Grenada police have slapped charges against 3 young men in connection to the death of 2 American tourists. Also, the Ghana teachers and the Ministry of Education continue with their negotiations following the countrywide strike. Internationally, as usual, I don't know what's happening in Nigeria, but a breakaway faction of the Boko Haram group, they've actually kidnapped several young girls from school as well as the teachers. You'll hear a little bit more of that in the midday news. And also, you know, the war continues in Ukraine and the Middle East there. So, yes, that's the latest in terms of some of what made the news this week. But this morning, we have the illustrious Mr. Nubian Grier with us this morning. And we're going to be discussing what he's been doing and what the club has been doing for the McKnight area, and we're going to dive a little bit more into what more can we do on the social side to assist those at-risk youths here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So, Mr. Grier, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. So sorry that little technical difficulty there. You hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Yes. So we're back. Let's see if we can get this right. Yes, Nubian.
Check, check.
Yes. Yes. So thanks for for joining us this morning. We are looking at we had a discussion earlier this week. You guys received the support from Skellig and so forth. Just give us a sense of what has been going on football wise with the club, Garden Hotspurs. Yes.
Um, well, good morning to everyone in Radio Land, and a special good morning to the executive and coaching staff and teams under the Garden Hotspurs Football Club umbrella. So, the Garden Hotspurs Football Club is one of the oldest clubs in St. Kitts, and we pride ourselves in not only working to win championships, we pride ourselves in doing community work, we pride ourselves in reforming the area. It's no secret. We know that the area has been plagued with unfortunate incidents and activities over the past better part of 15 years. And so we strive as a club to make better women and men in the community. So half of what we do is football related. The other half of what we do is more mentorship and molding and bringing the youths from where they are to being where we want them to be as a people.
And as you mentioned, that's where we're going to begin the discussion. As we look around St. Kitts and Nevis, we have many football clubs, many sports associations. Do you think we are doing enough to look after the interests of the young people? And your club has been one of those institutions that would have been doing this. Do you think we can do more to mold and shape the young people in St. Kitts and Nevis?
I think that not enough is being done, not nearly enough. I think that as a people, as Kittitians and Nevisians, I think that we can donate more, not only economically, but donate time to the communities, especially a community like McKnight or even like Newtown Village that has similar type issues that's plague our community. A few hours afternoon, you come help out the football team. It's not only the football teams, there are track and field teams, basketball teams, tennis teams, or even a book club. I am one that I feel as though even to get a government contract of a certain size, I believe that there should be a social component to it where you're trying to bid on a job to get a certain contract, and you should be able to present your technical abilities to say, listen, I am qualified to do this job. And also, you should be able to come and say, listen, I've been giving back to my community, giving back resources, giving back time, that sort of investment in your community. Because at the end of the day, violence or bad behavior in the community affects us all. And what the sports clubs tends to do in a major way is direct the youths on a better path. You know, provide leadership, provide mentorship, mold them into better persons.
And as you mentioned that, right, the business aspect of it, as a football institution like the Garden Hotspurs, and you guys recently got the support of Skellig.
Correct.
How much is a support like that going to assist Garden Hotspurs, not just on the field, but across across the work that you guys have been doing in the McKnight area?
And I would like to big up Skellig for taking that chance with us. Much persons or much business institutions don't want to associate themselves with that sort of I don't only want to call it negativity, but that sort of thing, and especially those from those sort of areas. They don't even want to hire people from certain areas, so much less come out and be the name or the main sponsor for a club coming from that area. So it would help us tremendously on the field, because in order to operate, there are operational costs like cones, bids, jerseys, football, water, transportation, and it will allow us to cover most of our expenses. But off the field, it would also help us to deal with our social responsibility in the communities. One of the things that we also do is we try to sponsor the Irish Town Primary School that is right next door. And it would help us to support the school, you know, and support the kids in the school and the area. So our part of our social responsibility is to going out and helping the elderly, but everything is money. I mean, you could go on, you say you want to do a cleanup, you gotta buy garbage bags, you gotta buy a mattress, you gotta buy a rake. Those things ain't free anywhere. So it would help us tremendously on the field, technically, and off the field in dealing with our social responsibility to the folks there in McKnight.
And as you mentioned that, right, I think people assume, quote unquote here, that football clubs, football institutions, sports associations in St. Kitts and Nevis are money makers, big generating this big profit margin. You know, I'm wearing my city, sweater sort of thing. And clubs like those make millions because they have a large following. But here in St. Kitts and Nevis, I'm not so sure whether or not institutions like those football clubs, quote unquote, make this sort of profit that they can just wake up tomorrow, go into the communities, hold a book drive, hold after school classes, and so forth. Give us the intricacies, not going into the financing aspect of the club, intricacies of how the clubs go about all of the whole revenue generation, not stating figures, in terms of going out there and partnering and holding camps and holding sessions for young people.
That's one of our major challenge, and we are grateful that Skellig came on board in this way for us, because in the past, what would happen now is we would have to do more fundraisers like breakfast, different things to raise funds, because like part of our social responsibility, we try not to turn away anybody. So even if you are not skilled as a footballer and you come to the club, you are allowed to practice with the club. And so you have to wear a jersey, you have to wear pants, they need balls. And the balls, because so much practice in the balls, get spent quickly. So when you have to replace a ball and a ball costs, let's say, $150 EC, we have 5 teams and hopefully working on a 6th team under the Garden Hotspurs umbrella. So when you have to buy a ball that costs $150 and the premier team need 20 balls to practice properly, then you still have 5 other teams to get 20 balls too. So when you look, it adds up. Then you have to get water, you have to get training equipment, cones, bibs, transportation when the teams go, you have to get jerseys. So when the youths go to train or go to play a game somewhere, they need a kit. So it includes shirt, pants, socks. Sometimes they will purchase their own shoes, but sometimes it might be an unfortunate situation where the child can't get shoes. So then we as a club would assist in that area. And a pair of football boots might cost you $200 EC on the lower side. Then you could get the $200-300 boots, you know? So it's very expensive, and we as the executive, we don't get paid. And a lot of times we have to dig into our own pockets to supplement where when the club don't have any money. We're doing it. I've been there since about 2013, so I've been there like 11 years now, and I've never made a dime from the club. And I've spent a lot of personal funds just making sure that the club is up and running and making sure that they could provide a refuge for the youths in the community, whether it be boys or girls, you know.
And as you put those costs on the table, right, because what I want people to understand, right, you know, we keep saying, you know, sports is the gateway out for a lot of people, including the young people, right? But I don't think we get the total understanding. Well, I do, because I'm part of an association. But the people listening and the general public don't necessarily understand what goes into the local bodies to get athletes from grassroots to potentially playing professional sports, right? But that's one thing. We're also being challenged by the issue of crime and violence, and you then have to break some of your resources or your books to also deal with these social ills that are affecting St. Kitts and Nevis, right? And as you lay that out there, do you think that the public in general completely understands the role that clubs play? Because, as you said, shoes and uniform and all of this, and then we're thinking about young people. Do you think the public in general, because sometimes, you know, Garden Hotspurs might host a breakfast, somebody might hold a breakfast, and then we keep hearing, a breakfast again, a fundraiser again. Do you think they totally understand what goes into running these clubs and how it benefits the young people?
No, I don't think so. Mainly because I don't think we could appreciate, as you just mentioned, the benefits of operating a club in the community. You know, you go out and support the club. So you say, I'm a Newtown fan, I'm a Garden Hotspurs fan, I'm a Village fan, or is a Monkey Hill football team fan. But if the children were to put their all into it and they be successful, it could change the lives and livelihood of so much persons. I mean, just being that example, and we look at it and it's far-fetched because, yeah, there is Messi and there is all the other big names, and you say, well, oh, that's out there. There is no future for football here. So basically, we just do it because we kind of love the sport and, well, community pride, but not holistically in a sense where if I go and apply myself, I could be a professional athlete and support my family like any other professional on the face of the earth. And also be an example to one of the youngsters coming up that could say, wow, look at Atiba Harris, or look at one of the other great footballers from here in St. Kitts, and look at those overseas. I could also support my family from football. You know, most of our players have a daytime job and work hard, but at the end of the day, you can't see the advantages of being a professional football player, at least here in St. Kitts.
But do you think that vision is not there because we're not culturally adapted to the possibility that we may be able to go to that level?
I believe probably, and also you look at television and social media and you see Messi, and Messi might be passing in a Rolls Royce and somebody snap a picture or take a small video. We don't have those sort of sightings around here. So it's, on television, it's in America or in Europe, but to visually see it and appreciate it and say, boy, that could be the light at the end of the tunnel for me, it's not there.
Because I think for me, and as you mentioned, the light at the end of the tunnel, for me, I think we don't, and this is what I found with a lot of young people and those kids who are now getting into sports and coming up, or those who would have been there, is that they don't have the patience to get to the end of the tunnel where the light is, because I may not necessarily make it there because of my, I'm just in St. Kitts and, I don't necessarily see it. So I could go get a job easier and just work and just live life rather than investing a little bit more to get to that level, because people like Messi and Aguero and these guys that came from Argentina, they came from humble beginnings just like us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, right? When you look at the clubs that keep turning out those players in Argentina, you talk about Boca Juniors and all the other clubs, right? When I was looking at a documentary recently, and literally it's thousands of young people fighting for small spots. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have the opportunity. We saw what happened last year in the Gold Cup, where our team went internationally, played, did have success, and those players were literally out there on the international stage. So do you think we need to begin the whole discussion about not just lifting the standard of sports in the schools, but also begin to teach the players in the clubs that the pathway to success is this, and this, and then you can get to that level?
Yes, and in addition to that, I believe we need to reform the way we look at sports and education, because education is the key, or one of the keys. Now, what if my child isn't too intelligent, he's average, but he's a good football player? Do we have the infrastructure in place to support that dream? I mean, most of our players, very talented, because we went out and beat players who come from system or have systems in place to support that dream. And our guys go and work construction or work in a store, work in an office and practice 2-3 times a week. And those guys practicing every day. What if we had the infrastructure in place where we have a sport academy where, let's say from the age of 10, 11, 12, you identify, listen, this guy could be an athlete. Football, track and field, basketball, whatever. And he's placed into that system. So by the time he's 17, 18, there are scouts already looking at him. That's the start to at least looking into the tunnel. So at least you could see the light at the end of the day. Most of us don't have scouts looking at us unless you're exceptionally well. And then we culture in a way where we go out there and we don't put in enough effort because we don't have to wake up 5:30 in the morning every day to train. So when you get into that regimen, I better go back home, go back to my job, back down in the office making me little money and playing football in Warner Park. So it's the infrastructure and the culture that we come from that sometimes does not allow us to see it or reach there or visualize it in your brain, even without even seeing it, saying, but I could do this, let me apply myself to it. But most of the other countries, most of the bigger countries have those academies. I mean, I studied in Cuba, Jamaica, Barbados. Most of them bigger countries have those sort of academies, so they push out those sort of players.
And that's the thing, because as you mentioned Jamaica there, right? And for me, Jamaica is outside, well, within the CARICOM region. Jamaica is like the pinnacle of sporting disciplines in the Caribbean region, because they churn out the footballers who are playing in Europe for a second, third division. You have the tennis players, you have the athletes,
Track and field,
track and
right.
field, right? When we look at the rest of the Caribbean region, including St. Kitts and Nevis, we are struggling to determine where we want to go. So my question would be, what's the difference between Jamaica and St. Kitts and Nevis? And I know that they pride themselves on developing young people in St. Kitts and Nevis, same way that you guys are also working to develop the young people of McKnight, right? And show them the vision. And then you have, on the other hand, the young people, and we had a debate over this, whether or not it's a way out of poverty, or it's just that you as a young person want to be at the top and go professional because you're seeing these successful people at the top. Because when we look at Jamaican athletes, they already have the next generation. Shelley and Fraser Price is bowing out after the Olympics. We're now seeing the transition of the next generation of young people already in the sport. So what's missing between what they have and what's here in St. Kitts and Nevis?
To me, it's the infrastructure and the mechanism to bring the kids and put them in that system that caters for that, and I go back to the same thing. Having a sports academy would help tremendously, because you have everybody concentrated in one spot, and it's iron sharpening iron. Today, you might beat me, and tomorrow, I'm going to put in the work and beat you tomorrow, and there's that camaraderie where we're trying to be the best. And there's that light at the end of the tunnel, because Shelley Ann Fraser is there. And she's out there on stage, and she came from the same area I came from. And when she come back to Jamaica, we have conversations. Hey, listen, you got to start shaving off some time after that. You got to start getting your farm together. You got to do certain things. You got to change your diet. You got to exercise more. If you got to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning and start training, you got to start lifting weights. You got to start changing your mental in order to be successful. Because if not, what we're doing right now, we're just trying to occupy the youth's time. Occupying the time, because at the end of the day, by the time they're 28, 29, and I don't play football no more, you just continue working. Just that we substituted with you going down the wrong path in the neighborhood for football. But the light at the end of the tunnel isn't there, because what we would want to do essentially is to have professional footballers, because persons who don't go to university are not classified as professionals. You might be a skilled tradesman, but you're not a professional, but you can be a professional footballer, And that is what we need to start. There is where we need to start reforming the way we think. If you're very intelligent, okay, cool. You could have all your academics and what's not. But if you're skilled with your feet, then you could be a footballer. You're skilled with your hands, you could be a professional tennis player,
But is that something that you would lay blame down to parents? Because, and this is something that goes way back since previous generations, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years ago. Our children we make children, we want them to become doctors, lawyers, professionals in office. But we don't necessarily see the artistic aspect of it as being a career, so that our parents now focus primarily on, as parents, we focus primarily on this vision. We make children go to school, go to university, study this, and then that is it.
In part, and it's the same thing that I mentioned earlier. Me as a parent watch sporting events and say, wow, LeBron James is a really good athlete. and he's making millions. He could afford to take care of his family, and he could be an example for the youths in his community or wherever he resides. I, as a parent, don't have that example around here. And so for me, I'm telling my children, hey, you need to go to university. Because at the end of the day, where would sports take you? Can you take care of your family from sports? But if we had the infrastructure in place and had scouts coming and our kids going out and doing tryouts and being successful, I could say, hey, but look at Peter's son. Peter's son he put in the work and he became successful and took care of his family and took care of his community and gave back, and pulled others with him also. So it's the infrastructure. Once the infrastructure isn't there, and I believe it's a total reform of the whole education system and us here in St. Kitts too, because sometimes on the educational front of it, sometimes there's a lot of scholarships that we as Kittitians don't get, or they just sit on somebody there somewhere and they don't get given out. Like, for instance, when I went to Cuba to study, it was about 36 of us, and that was the largest contingency leaving out of St. Kitts to go to Cuba to study. And looking at it, saying, boy, this is a lot of people, boy, because you're accustomed to the classrooms on here, getting 30 students and whatnot. It's a lot of people. But when we reach Antigua, have 80-something, Dominica have 100 and something. All the other Caribbean countries always had more than us, but we always send this small, and after that, you see like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 gone, 15 gone. And we could send out our children more to get an education. And even on the sports front, we could have a facility where it's concentrated on sports and sports alone. Football, track and field, basketball, and have persons get good trainers, have a good program in place, and get our kids out there. I mean, you could give yourself a 4-year span. Listen, we're going to forego this Olympics. Next Olympics, we're going to make sure we have a set of guys going out, they're training, they do the theoretical aspect of it, get good trainers, everything in place to make sure that our kids become successful and lift up St. Kitts and be an example to those coming along.
So is that part of the mandate of the club right now in order to get the next generation of players involved, whether or not they're from McKnight?
Well, we accept everyone from everywhere. You don't necessarily have to be from McKnight. Our club constitutes players from all around St. Kitts. We have players from even as far down as St. Paul's, from Newtown, from all around. And yes, that is our aim and our vision. But just that because we don't have access to the scouts of different clubs overseas, we don't. I remember we sent a team one time to St. Martin with some assistants, and they played some football down there. But that's St. Martin, or even to Antigua. But what we would want to do essentially is to mold the players them into something that it's attractive out there.
Okay, there are two questions I want to ask you, but I'll throw them out when I come back. I have to acknowledge our partners, Carib Brewery and TDC, and when we come back, we'll continue with the discussion on Insight.
People make the world go round.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
The Kim Collins Athletic Stadium and the Nevis Athletic Stadium will be energized by SKN's top athletes for the 2024 TDC Track and Field Inter-School Championship. Be a part of the historic multi-city event when SKN Athletics bring you 4 days of track and field on Thursday, March 14th and Friday, March 15th at the Kim Collins Athletic Stadium, and Saturday, March 16th and Sunday, March 17th at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. Saturday tickets are $30 preferred seated, $15 for adults on the ground, and $10 for children on the grounds. Sunday tickets are $40 preferred seated, $20 for adults on the ground, and $15 for children on the grounds. Tickets are available at City Drugstore Nevis and Digicel St. Kitts. It's energy, energy, energy for the 2024 TDC Track and Field Inter-School Championships. March 14th to March 17th at the Kim Collins Athletic Stadium and the Nevis Athletic Stadium. Sponsored by TDC, the Department of Sports St. Kitts, and the Department of Sports Nevis. Energy!
People make the world go
And we are back here on Inside the News, and we have with us President of the Garden Hotspurs Club, Nubian Greer, and we're talking about football, benefits of sports, and the whole club system and what the club has been doing within the community of McKnight. I want to ask you, do you think, and this is not us being political for anybody listening, do you think governments need to throw more into sports? And this question comes against the backdrop of us as journalists across the region. We keep harping this point, and we discuss it a lot, whether or not the governments, not only in St. Kitts but right across the Caribbean region, are allocating enough funding behind sports, and also, we talk about infrastructure, whether or not we're developing proper infrastructure here in the Caribbean region.
No, I don't think that the government, as you say, it's not political. In St. Kitts or across the region, for the most part, is investing enough into sports. Sports is almost a multi-trillion-dollar business globally, and we don't benefit in the Caribbean much from sports outside of cricket. And it is an avenue where poor people could access. Most of us might not have the funding to go to university, but from we 2-3 years old, we outside kicking a tennis ball in the alley, So we hone our skills from then instead of picking up a book. So, as I said, to me, from you reach like 10, 11 years old, your parents should be able to make a decision. Hey, listen, I want my child going to a sports school. He's into this thing, so at least you have different avenues and opportunities for success. You need the proper infrastructure. Look at Cuba, for example, and certain parts of Europe and Asia and Latin America. By the time you're 10 years old, you're in this school, a particular school that caters to your needs. So, like I could speak for Cuba, you're in a sports school, or if your parents want you to be a teacher, you're in a teaching school to teach you the art of teaching. Or if you want to go the traditional route, you could go into an engineering school or a medical school. So you are separated early, so you could start to find your pathway in life. You could start training more, you could start doing more necessary to build that career and build your potential to be a sportsman. And that's what happened in Latin America with all the footballers in Brazil, in Argentina, and all those other places. You're not in a classroom, you're not in CFBC type environment trying to be a footballer. You're in a sports school. And so we have talented young men and young women here who make it through that educational system without that infrastructure in place. But we need it. And we could push out top quality athletes like all those other countries.
And and just to summarize your point, because what you're saying there, we have talented athletes, but because of the infrastructure that we don't have, a lot of them fall by the wayside. And you rightly said it earlier, somebody may not necessarily be academically inclined, but they're very much skilled in the individual sporting discipline, but there's no end goal for them. There's no light at the end of the
Correct.
tunnel for a lot of them.
Correct.
So a lot of them fall back into, quote unquote, a lot of the criminal activities that we're seeing happening here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Because when we look at this whole infrastructure development and allocation of resources, because what we found as journalists across the region, less than 1% of budgets from governments across the region are allocated to sports. Maybe with the exception of places like Jamaica and the Bahamas, right? Those two territories have actually seen the benefits of investing in sports, because right
Correct.
now the Bahamas pushing to ensure that they remain the home of the World Relay Championships, because it's back in the Bahamas this year, so they want to have it as their major event. Jamaica, they're seeing, because of the strength of their athletics program, a lot of sponsors are coming there. They're
Right.
hosting a lot of international meets. So the young people are seeing the potential there. Just recently, we saw Michael Louis, for example, became the 11th person within the Caribbean region, in Caribbean, West Indies, to score a double century, scores 2 centuries within a 4-day tournament. When we see these people here, we don't have that level of resources. And again, somebody was recommending to me that we annually take 1% of the budget of the CBI revenue and allocate it to sports to develop our young people. Warner Park is actually our only major, with the exception of Kim Collins, which is currently being repaired, is the only major infrastructure in terms of sports that we have. And Nevis has that as well, in terms of the Mondo facility there. But my thinking is, if we build it, they will come. If we put the infrastructure in place, they will come. But we don't have that. So how long, what time span do you actually foresee us making another major impact on the global stage, whether it be football, athletics, tennis, or so forth?
We might have a one-off. Somebody might get lucky. But having a football, we could build a Kim Collins Stadium in every community in St. Kitts, and it will not be enough. It will not. They could build a Warner Park Stadium in every community, nice lights, nice pitch. It will not be enough until we could separate the youths from an early age and say, look, you're sports inclined, you're a very good athlete, you seem to have some potential and you could run really fast. Let's hone in on this skill and make you into the next Kim Collins of St. Kitts out there. And I could bet you we could find 5 in every school right now. And so at the end of the day, you could have at least 50 youngsters in an academy training to be the next Kim Collins. And next year, you could find the next 50. And that's how you start. You must have the academy and have them solely focusing on that alone. That's track and field. Then what about basketball? Multi-trillion-dollar business again. Baseball. We have so much Spanish youngsters here. Football, everything. So we can do that, and it provides more avenues for success for our children. Because I could sit back and say, I have 6 children, and I could sit back and feel comfortable and say, well, 3 of them ended up in university and became doctors and lawyers and what's not. But the other 3, one is a footballer, one is a tennis player, and the other one is a cricketer. And I don't have to feel, none of them could feel lesser than the other in any which way. And I could sit back and feel proud of their academic achievements and their skill set that they choose to go in,
And that makes sense. I see it, because and again, as a parent who's involved in sport, you understand the benefits that are being derived from sports. Because I don't get the feeling that a lot of parents, and this is not limited to St. Kitts and Nevis, a lot of parents, because I've been hearing this from my friends in Barbados, my friends in Antigua, Guyana, and to an extent Trinidad as well. They're not seeing parents becoming so inclined in the whole notion of sports and what should be done and whether or not we should support our kids going into sports. But on the other hand, to all of that, one of the things that we've found, and I think this is what is trickling into the whole notion that sports is not necessarily a gateway out, is the fact that a lot of the players who started and showed potential and for the possibility of making it professional, they fall by the wayside because of lack of discipline. So, you have to, as you rightly said, you have to get up early in the morning, begin your training. This is your new life. You're just dedicating yourself to being involved in training, home, train, pitch, home, train, pitch, home, train, pitch. You're on a strict diet. Specifically, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. But what I've found is a lot of players in the Caribbean, and to an extent in St. Kitts, they don't stick to that regime or regiment that are recommended for players, whether it be their diets or discipline. And that has caused a lot of them either potentially traveling overseas, and I was disappointed when I heard that a number of players last year were dodging the doping tests. Right. How are you guys working as a club specifically with the young players who are now coming in the club and those who are in the club to maintain that discipline?
Well, to the first thing you said, what happens with that is if I felt as though I garnered my success on my terms and my conditions, no, I never had to wake up 5 o'clock in my life. I go to work. When I finish work, a stroll come to the stadium and we practice for 2 hours. Then I go home and match their play and everybody screaming my name. Now you met me this way. Now I come into your organization. I don't be up 4 o'clock in the morning. So now you want me to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning every day. And then you want me to eat that. I don't eat that. And I got my success by other means. So now you want to change this whole thing. And so it's a shock. And so most of us can't survive in that kind of regimen because you're overworking me. And then when you can't see, well, I can get a $300,000 contract. I mean, so give me a multi-million-dollar contract, but then I get in 600 US a month. Nah, better go back home to work on this step. That's still doing what I'm doing still. You understand? I'm still seeing me way. And then added to that, you can't see anybody from your environment that went out there, went through that hardship, and got multi-million-dollar contract. That driving a big Benz and living in a big house on the hill. You can't see it. So it seems like somebody unnecessarily pressuring you. Yeah. So as it pertains to the club, it's dealing with discipline, making sure the children come early to practice. There's a lot of behavioral issues that comes from areas like McKnight, where feel somebody can't talk to you. Back then, any parent could have disciplined any child. And when you reach, you may get some more licks on it. Right now, a child back talking to you is almost seem common, but it's dealing with that and making sure you implement the correct set of punishment. Not enough to force them away because you don't want them away, but enough to let them know, hey, listen, this isn't right and this isn't the way to go. So discipline and positive reinforcements.
I mean, I like how you put it, and you explain. I don't think anybody could put it much better in terms of the expectations of players, especially when you're aiming for the top, but you don't necessarily know how players got to the top. Because let's be frank, a lot of us in St. Kitts and Nevis, we admire all the international players. We always have some specifically English club that we look at, whether it be Man City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Luton Town, or whichever club it is, right? But we don't necessarily know what the players did to get to that level. How are you guys changing or working to institute these type of measures, whether it be training or dietary regimen, to get the players to better understand it's not just here, but when you travel overseas, these are the requirements?
That's difficult. It's a difficult task. Now, I saw a player one time arguing with one of the coaches and telling him, "Boy, you went overseas, and yes, you come back, 'cause you couldn't take it. You couldn't take it." And very few, we have had players nationally who got opportunities to go overseas, and most of them came back on their own will. Nobody won them. They just quit and came back, and that was the wrong example for the youths. So it makes it even harder for us now to say, listen, put in the work. You could be that and go home, and the children get the same positive reinforcement from home, and they go and get it in school, because they need it holistically all around. They need it from at the football club level, they need it from the family unit, they need it from in the schools, and they need it from in the community, where, like as I told you back then, if a parent see a child that they know out 8 o'clock in the night, a parent getting called one time, "Hey, what your son doing out here?" Nowadays, somebody can pass you straight. So they need that reinforcement from all around. Plus the infrastructure, St. Kitts could do wonders. Trust me. I have players on my team who very, 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 very talented, very skilled. Put in the right environment, they could join any team in Europe, any team in America.
I think and we heard this when the national team came back last year, that they saw the difference in terms of whether it be the standard, the accommodation, whatever it is, and the way the international squads were training, and the camaraderie amongst the players. And I guess it comes back down to discipline again, in terms of getting the players to understand that in order to get to maybe Messi's level, or Aguero's level, or Ronaldo's level, or any of the international players, even in the MLS, it's a different level, and the attitude and direction of players have to change. And I don't know how anyone can get it into the minds of the players.
That's difficult, and unless you go back to the same point, unless you're going to be able to isolate them, and you stay if you want to stay, and if you don't want to stay, then you could leave, and they have to abide by those rules and regulations of the infrastructure that you put in place. I'm my own man, and I'm going to work, and I got children to go feed, and I got this and I got that, and a million excuses on what they have to do.
You know what, and that statement actually reminded me of the cricketer Shamar Joseph, right? He had a dedication. He really wanted to play for West Indies and come from some rural area in Guyana where I guess nobody really knew about. And television was limited, internet access limited, but he continued to perfect his craft. He showed the will and the desire to play for West Indies. He got selected for 4 days, and the rest is history. He's now an international player, popular player. So he moved from being a security guard, who probably made less than $500 a month, to actually making $300,000 for 6 weeks of playing in the IPL, right? And probably next year he's going to get a multi-million-dollar contract, right? And that to me says, hey, this is what it takes to move from here to there to your end result, and show the will and the desire that you actually want to do this.
Correct. And you could, if you look at it, you could ask the football players, and it would be very, very few, how much of them actually own a personal football. You know, a football might cost, as I said, like $150. How much are they willing to sacrifice $150 to own a football? And those are the ones who say, "Well, let me put in personal time. I might not be able to go down at this stadium, but I could do something in my yard, try a little ball control." And you see it displayed in the park, where you get a high ball or you get a long ball, and by the time you first touch on the ball still bouncing up and down the place, because outside of group training, there is no personal training. And it stretches across all the other disciplines. How much basketballers actually own their own personal basketball? How much of the runners go and actually buy a pair of tracks to do it? How much of them put in the time watching videos with other players? And not only watching videos with other players, listening to their life story, because you just spoke about the Guyanese who was a security guard and became a professional player. What did he have to do to get there? And that's the journey, and that's the process that you gotta start to adapt and craft it into your own way. Because everybody have sacrifices, so what are you willing to sacrifice to attain that? You know?
And that makes a lot of sense, because and we could also call the cricketer shift right, Chanda Paul. I mean, he was very boring to watch, but he was consistent. And what he did was, this is what I do. I may not be academically inclined, but this is my profession. He literally stood in front of a bowling machine for 8 hours at some point in time to perfect his craft. Right, but we kind of out of time, so I want to give you, maybe another 3-4 minutes, just to give us a synopsis of what the football club is doing, your expectations for the season, and what you guys have been doing within the community.
But just one last thing, because even I heard this story about Kobe Bryant. Even though he was an international superstar, a mega athlete, he was still going 3 hours before and leave 3 hours after, shooting free throws, because he wanted to make sure that he was always on point, and he was willing to sacrifice an additional 6 hours, 3 hours before they came and 3 hours after they leave, just to make sure that he was always on point. And those are the examples. Instead of just saying, "Well, yeah, Kobe Bryant is a big star." What did he have to do to become a big star? Michael Jordan.
And I think our players in St. Kitts and Nevis need to begin to read and understand what it really takes, because as you rightly said, Kobe did this. LeBron, I heard, he's sometimes going an hour, half an hour before the game and also after. To really get to understand what it takes to get to the pinnacle, and I'm not sure that our players are understanding that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, for the upcoming 2024 football season, we have recognized, and we want to do a lot more community-oriented projects. We want to do some area cleanup. We want to do more fundraising and use those funds to help the elderly and more unfortunate persons in the community. I believe we are obligated as a football club, even though we are non-profit and sometimes the sponsorship can't cover it, but we would still want to give back. Part and parcel of bringing the youth's mind to always give back and always be a role model. You can't be doing bad and be a role model. You have to be doing good to be a role model in your community. And always strive for excellence. Always strive. Never give up on your dreams, never give up on your hopes. Always strive for excellence. And hopefully this year we have a very good Coach Sinclair Bumpy Morris, hopefully, and a really good squad of players. And hopefully we could win the championship this year. We came very close a few times in the past, but this year we're hoping to make our sponsors proud and make our community proud.
Go Spurs. All right. There you had it. That was president of the Garden Hotspurs football team. They recently locked in the sponsorship and partnership of Skelec. But we're kind of out of time, so we have to take a break now, and then we'll continue on the other side of the break with the St. Kitts Nevis Athletics. They'll be talking about the upcoming inter-school championships. So, yeah, do stick and stay tuned.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness. It's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With the Win FM headline news, I am Yulana Weeks. Featuring locally,
Consumer Affairs Department to begin issuing fines to non-compliant businesses in April 2024. Governor General of Ireland, His Excellency Walford Gums, to serve as Governor General's deputy. Amory Bakery celebrates 75 years, presents $5,000 to local breast cancer organization.
the details and more straight ahead.
Some businesses have eluded the consumer protection system for years, but with the consumer protection legislation passed in October 2023, businesses found in contravention of the laws run the risk of being penalized. Consumer officers have been authorized to issue tickets to non-compliant businesses as of April 2024. Tickets range from $750 to $2,000. The Consumer Protection Bill 2023 was successfully passed into law on Monday, October 30, 2023. Some notable objectives under the Consumer Protection Bill include providing services in compliance with the applicable regulations, standards, codes, and licensing requirements. Appropriate labeling of goods in accordance with the standards and specifications prescribed by the competent authorities. Ensuring that hazardous or other goods whose distribution and consumption are regulated by law are sold or supplied in accordance with the applicable regulations, which include appropriate markings, descriptions, and dates. Producers and suppliers will be held liable for defects in goods and for violation of product standards and consumer safety standards, which may cause loss or damage to consumers. The prohibition of unfair trading practices, particularly practices relating to deceptive conduct. The prohibition of production and supply of harmful and defective goods, and for the adoption of measures to prevent the supply or sale of such goods, including measures requiring the removal of defective goods from the shelves. Ensuring that producers or suppliers are appropriately sanctioned and that relevant civil or criminal defenses for violations to consumer safety standards are available to defendants. The legislation also provides for the Consumer Protection Board to conduct investigations on behalf of consumers who believe that they had been adversely affected in relation to the sale of goods or provision of services. To sensitize retailers on the consumer protection regulations, the Consumer Affairs Department has scheduled a business sensitization seminar for Thursday, March 14, 2024 at the Agricultural Lodge Conference Room, Lagreet at 9 a.m. The seminar forms part of a week of activities by the Consumer Affairs Department. The topics for discussion are the Consumer Protection Bill 2023, compliance requirements for businesses, and penalties for non-compliance with the law. According to the Consumer Affairs Department, quote, the seminar is crucial and aims to simplify the legislation, make it easier for businesses to understand their obligations to consumers, will provide guidance on compliance and outline the fixed penalty amount for non-compliance, end quote. His Excellency Mr. Walford Vincent Gums, OBE-JP, has been sworn in to serve as Governor General's deputy in the absence of Dame Marcella Liburd, Governor General. Mr. Gums was administered his oaths by Dame Marcella Liburd during a ceremony on Friday, March 8, 2024 at Government House. In attendance at the ceremony was Prime Minister Dr. Terence True. Liburd advised the nation of her absence from the Federation from Friday, March 8 to Saturday, March 16, 2024. Mr. Gums had been sworn in to serve as Governor General's deputy on other occasions, including the period of Liburd's attendance to the coronation ceremony of King Charles III in May 2023 and the inaugural head of state visit to Taiwan for their National Day celebrations in October 2023. Mr. Walford Gums is a former Deputy Speaker of the OECS Regional Assembly, a former Ombudsman for St. Kitts and Nevis, and a former Speaker of the National Assembly of St. Kitts and Nevis. In commemoration of its 75th anniversary, Amory's Bakery delivered on its promise to present a token of appreciation to the Essence of Hope Breast Cancer Foundation. A check valuing $5,000 was presented to the president of the Essence of Hope Breast Cancer Foundation, Pamela Armstrong, and the public relations officer, Dr. Marcus Natter, on Friday, March 8, 2024. The presentation was made by Charlie Amory. In receipt of the donation, the organization stated, quote, "Thank you, Amory Bakery, for your continued support of our foundation's work," end quote. The donation proved timely as the Essence of Hope Breast Cancer Foundation prepares to host a health forum dubbed Redefining Cancer Coverage, slated for Saturday, March 23, 2024. The organization said, quote, "The event aims to bring together key stakeholders, including health insurance companies, healthcare providers, medical professionals, and cancer survivors, to raise awareness and foster dialogue on the pressing need for improved insurance coverage with a specific focus on breast cancer," end quote. Ernest Amory, whilst delivering remarks at the bakery's 75th anniversary church service at the Antioch Baptist Church, informed the congregants of his continued efforts to give back to society. Amory stated, quote, "We cannot celebrate 75 years in one day or 1 week. So we have a lot of plans to give tokens of appreciation to our supporters, our customers, and the general public of St. Kitts and Nevis. We've decided to partner with the Essence of Hope Breast Cancer Association, which I have done many times, with the Children's Home, with the Carding Home, with the hospital, with every organization that is doing good in the community."
Regionally,
during its first corporate planning session by the recently established Ministry of Mental Health, Wellness and Religious Affairs, held at Radisson Beach Resort on Wednesday, Minister for Mental Health, Wellness and Religious Affairs with responsibility for the Mount Gay Psychiatric Hospital, Honorable Delma Thomas, reiterated the need for a reformed approach to addressing mental health challenges. She emphasized the importance of implementing innovative strategies to address the complexities surrounding mental health issues. One such initiative discussed is the establishment of a crisis intervention center, aiming to offer a comprehensive approach that prioritizes accessibility and confidentiality.
And so for me, a crisis intervention center should not be a building somewhere where you have to walk in, but it should be, because we are in the technologically age, something that can, yes, you can feel comfortable to walk in, but you can also get some kind of online mechanism, some people online who you can speak with. And so I'm happy to say that we have many Grenadians trained right here in Grenada. Some are associated with St. George's University, some associated right in the room here. And we also have Grenadians living abroad who are very resourceful and are already coming forward.
Acknowledging the significance of community-based interventions, Minister Thomas highlighted the ministry's commitment to addressing mental health concerns at the grassroots level.
We must seek to develop wellness programs in the community. And to me, that is a key aspect of this new trust. We cannot only wait for when someone gets sick and end up at the Monge mental hospital, but our programs, our plans, whatever we do should start at the level of the community. Our school should be involved. There should be programs for our school as it relates to mental illness, as it relates to wellness.
First Vice President of the Alliance of Evangelical Churches, Bishop Esther Batiste, affirmed the church's commitment to this new thrust to tackle mental health issues.
We have come to realize from the Christian community that we need to take a holistic approach when it comes to our health in general, and when it comes to physical health or mental health or spiritual health or social well-being. And so psychosocial care, what we are trying to do from the Alliance perspective is to encourage our churches, our pastoral staff, to take mental health and the psychosocial need of its membership very seriously. And one of the things that we have done and we want to strengthen that with this support that we are having from the government perspective, a Christian Counselors Commission, where we have a register of counselors across the Christian community that are available.
The corporate planning session is aimed at establishing the ministry's mission, vision, values, stakeholder mapping, and key strategic priorities. For MTV News, Kilo Flavany.
Chinese ambassador to Guyana, Guo Haiyan, handed over the HPV and cervical cancer screening equipment to Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony on Friday. The US $100,000 in equipment was donated by the Chinese Medical Brigade through the People's Republic of China. It is aimed at boosting Guyana's fight against cervical cancer, the most prevalent type of cancer among women. In his remarks at the handed over ceremony, Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony said through the donation, the public health sector will now be able to introduce HPV testing.
We have in our hands the means of eliminating cervical cancer from Guyana. And that is really to use HPV vaccines. Unfortunately, our coverage for HPV vaccination is still relatively low. So one of the things that we want to do this year is to have an aggressive program where we can roll out HPV vaccination. So we want to make sure that every one of our health centers would be able to give HPV vaccination. We want to be able to capture this very early so that we can do more preventative care rather than the curative aspect.
Ambassador Hyan said the equipment can serve as a useful supplement to the cervical cancer screening program that is being implemented in Guyana.
Cervical cancer is the most common gynecological malignant tumor, but it can be detected early and treated early so as to reduce the incidence and mortality.
Chief Executive Officer of the Georgetown Public Hospital, Robbie Rembrandt, said China's government has been a long-standing partner to Guyana. He noted that they have supported the country's healthcare system in areas such as training and capacity building. Reporting for the newsroom, Sharda Bacchus.
The video spread like wildfire and ignited a storm among many Grand Bahamians.
We've seen things from all the cruise lines that people are being robbed and drugged and raped and murdered.
It captures a scene involving suspected Carnival Cruise Line passengers who were speaking with a local when they expressed that other passengers were apprehensive about leaving the ship, as Carnival Cruise Line officials have advised that it is not safe to do so in Freeport. It's a video residents are calling repulsive.
It is a hypocritical decision and a hypocritical action that Carnival and any other ship that does it is engaged in.
It was a bit of a disappointment to me as one of the tour operators. It's like being lackadaisical and not caring for the port they're coming to.
Now, H. Rudy Sawyer is owner of a nature tour business on the island, and he says this type of misinformation will have negative results for businesses like his.
And if they are advising their customers to not do something, the customers are most likely going to listen to them. And as a result, those of us who are relying on the customers coming to the country and to our island are really disappointed.
In today's House of Assembly session, Tourism Minister, the Honorable I. Chester Cooper, revealed that he received the video 171 times. However, he reassured that he directly spoke with Carnival CEO, who confirmed a steadfast partnership with the Bahamas.
And he has indicated that it's not something endorsed by Carnival. He's provided me with those notice. We continue to work with him on all of the CEOs of cruise lines who serve the Bahamas to ensure that we have an embracing partnership.
Now, MISIC proposes that the Bahamas government place Bahamian ambassadors on all cruise ships to ensure a positive narrative about the Bahamas is consistently maintained.
And the Ministry of Tourism should feel free to pay for that, because we then know that these undercover clandestine destructive information will not be disseminated amongst the tourists.
Now, Carnival Cruise Line has since released a statement maintaining that it provided standard information in their daily Fun Times publication for guests, referencing the U.S. State Department advisory, and no other information was shared beyond the Fun Times item. For the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, I'm Raven David.
Internationally,
security forces in Nigeria are searching Woodland for nearly 300 children abducted from school by gunmen. Kidnappings have become a lucrative business for armed gangs. Parents are losing faith in the authorities to prevent the abductions or find missing children.
Hearing words of support while going through every parent's worst nightmare. Sheikh Laval is anxiously hoping for his kidnapped son to return home.
I couldn't even sleep last night. My wife and I, we're devastated. We just couldn't fall asleep.
It was the older of his two sons who was taken by the gunmen. His younger son managed to escape.
The bandits arrived on motorcycles. They started shouting and then shooting. All the students ran away into the nearby bushes. One of the bandits chased after me as I ran, but I was able to get away from him. I looked around for a way to escape, and I was able to make it across the road and into the bushes. I came home from there.
Kidnappings for ransom are a major problem in Nigeria. It's estimated that 1,500 students have been taken by gangs and jihadists over the past decade. Thursday's abduction was the largest in recent years. Relatives of the children are pleading for the authorities to help. But some admit they have little faith in the government.
Earlier, I asked our correspondent Waisu Idris in Abuja who might be behind this latest abduction.
Well, although up till now nobody has come out to claim responsibility for these abductions, but sources are saying one of the bandit leader, Dogo Gide, who operates around Zamfara State, who has alliance with the Ansaru group and ISWAP, is responsible because bandits don't usually have the capacity to do this mass abduction. Abduction started in Nigeria by these Boko Haram groups that are splitted into the two main groups, ISWAP and Ansaru. So they are the ones responsible for this abduction.
Waisu, why are kidnappings of school children so common in Nigeria?
Well, there are several reasons why kidnapping is still going on. Number one is the most lucrative business on the side of the terrorists, because you pick one person, you get millions of naira. Number two is to hold the government to see that the government is look weak, because when they target school children, there is going to be sympathy within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. And they can now push the government to end up paying for ransom, which in most cases they denied paying it. But previously, the ones that happens in Jankebe and Zamfara State, the one that happens in Katsina, the government paid ransom to get the children back. And even this one that government said, go and rescue them. At the end, negotiation will come, and then they may end up paying ransom. So that is why kidnapping is still rampant and is still popular among the terrorist groups in Nigeria.
You raised the spectre of government and authorities. Many families say they have little faith in authorities or the government in their ability to help when it comes to stopping the abductions or even saving the children. Why is that?
It's very simple. Citizens have lost faith in government trying to protect them. Many communities, they have already gone into self-defense, getting their arms how to defend themselves, because whenever there is an attack, they call for help. They don't get it. Assuming the one that happens in Kuriga, if there is really intelligence sharing, they can't just disappear like into thin air without getting any rescue. So the people lost faith in the government because they are not getting, because the government did not show the political will to protect them in the previous attacks. Now we have seen how state government are even initiating their own vigilante, showing that, yeah, we don't have much confidence in what the central government is doing to protect us.
DW correspondent Waisu Idris, thanks so much.
Hello, you're with BBC News. I'm Anna Foster, live in Jerusalem. There is a development in the aid efforts towards Gaza. Just in the last few hours, we've seen a ship being loaded in Cyprus, and we can show you pictures of that happening, which is going to mark the start of a new maritime aid corridor. It was announced yesterday by the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and it is expected to become operational in the next few hours. It would be a new way to get large amounts of aid into Gaza, and it is considered absolutely crucial to try and really change the situation for people in the Strip, many of whom the UN has warned are facing famine. They say a quarter of the population of Gaza at the moment, particularly women and children, are finding themselves at risk of famine, starvation. And the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says that in the last 10 days alone, 23 people have died from malnutrition. So that new maritime aid convoy is being looked at, not just inside Gaza, but around the world, as something that could possibly move the dial on the humanitarian situation there. This is the scene live in Larnaca in Cyprus, where that ship is being loaded. It belongs to a Spanish charity. We're told that 200 or so tons of food and medical supplies are being loaded onto that ship, which will then be towed to Gaza. There are still questions about how that aid will actually be unloaded when it gets there, and crucially, how it will be distributed as well, because we've seen, of course, how desperate people are in Gaza. We've seen aid convoys in the last week or 10 days being mobbed by people who are desperate to get their hands on the dwindling numbers of supplies in Gaza. And this sea corridor, which is due to change things, is a joint operation between the US, the UK, the EU, Cyprus are obviously involved, and the UAE as well, the United Arab Emirates, who've been key in getting a lot of the aid in there that's in at the moment. They're hoping to expand this, but of course these are early days at the moment. And the pressure goes on to try and really encourage people in Israel, to try and encourage the Israeli authorities to get more aid in. That pressure is coming from the UK, it's coming from the US and others. And I spoke earlier to David Ottaway. Now, he's a former Washington Post Middle East correspondent, but he's also now a fellow at the Woodrow Wilson Institute in Washington, D.C.
First of all, it's a major shift in our involvement in this whole issue of humanitarian aid into the country. And I don't have any, I think the U.S. military knows how to build temporary piers and build causeways, et cetera. The physical part is probably the easiest part in my mind, because the military is totally in control of the operation. And it's not just the U.S., it's the EU. Everybody is, the outsized powers are getting involved in setting up a new corridor, a major new corridor to provide assistance outside Israeli control. And this is a major change. Now, yes, it's going to take a month or 6 weeks to get this thing going. But I think the problems are not going to be offshore. The problems are going to be onshore, which is how do you distribute this and how do you protect those who are distributing it? So we'll see. But I think this is a major game changer in our U.S. involvement in the whole conflict.
And they are really some of the issues that I think are at the forefront of people's minds at the moment. Even as we see that ship being loaded, we know that when it gets to Gaza, actually getting that aid ashore and having it distributed throughout the Strip to the people who need it is going to be absolutely key. I mentioned that the charity Open Arms is actually in charge of what's going on. They have this Spanish ship. In fact, the owner has told the BBC that what they are about to do, he described it as quite a challenge. Our correspondent, Rira Davis, has this report.
In the Cypriot port of Larnaca, they've been working around the clock. The Spanish ship, Open Arms, preparing to tow a barge with 200 tons of food and medical aid all the way to Gaza. It's a precarious, untested plan with obvious risks.
Yes, we will tow this platform to Gaza, where the last mile will be the most complicated operation. The disembarkation will be done on a pier that is being built right now by the World Central Kitchen.
How the aid will be unloaded into Gaza, where there's no port or functioning harbour, isn't clear. Airdrops and some land deliveries are often swamped by thousands of desperate, hungry people. Some aid agencies say the plan is misguided and ineffective. The humanitarian crisis is worsening by the day. The UN says there's a danger of famine, and children are already reported to be dying from malnutrition. All of this is happening because Israel and Hamas have been unable to agree a ceasefire that would have allowed more aid in by road through Israel, still the preferred, most effective route. and the fighting continues. A tower block in the southern city of Rafah was hit in an airstrike overnight. And Israel, despite growing international pressure for a truce, says the military campaign is not yet over.
I think it's also worth underlining that even though this new maritime aid corridor is being put into place, and even though the US announced just in the last few days as part of Joe Biden's State of the Union address that they would be building a pier to actually get aid from the sea into Gaza, although that's expected to be at least 60 days away, as Wira was saying. Many world leaders, many foreign ministers around the world are very clear that their preferred option right now would be an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. But that still seems as far away as it has been for a while. The talks have been going on once again in Cairo this week. They're brokered by the Egyptians and the Qataris, of course, because Hamas and Israel don't have direct diplomatic relations. This week, Israel chose not to send a delegation to Cairo at all, even though they say that they are constantly looking at what's on the table and they are still considering it from afar. Hamas did have negotiators there, but they were withdrawn at the end of the week. And remember, it was less than 2 weeks ago when the US President Joe Biden said that he hoped that a humanitarian ceasefire could be in place for Ramadan. He was confident, he said, that that could happen. Well, Ramadan is due to start tomorrow or on Monday. And the way things stand at the moment, that humanitarian ceasefire, Nikki, will not be coming into play just yet.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
People make the world go
And we are back here on Inside the News. And I'm German Abel sitting in again today. We will continue with the sports theme for today's edition of Inside the News. We will, for the second half of the program, discuss athletics. Yes, the upcoming inter-school tournament. Lord. The inter-school event, yes. Between St. Kitts, it's be held on St. Kitts and Nevis. But before we do that, we will quickly acknowledge our partners who make the program possible, and then we'll jump right into the discussions.
The Kim Collins Athletic Stadium and the Nevis Athletic Stadium will be energized by SKN's top athletes for the 2024 TDC Track and Field Inter-School Championship. Be a part of the historic multi-city event when SKN Athletics bring you 4 days of track and field on Thursday, March 14th and Friday, March 15th at the Kim Collins Athletic Stadium, and Saturday, March 16th and Sunday, March 17th at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. Saturday tickets are $30 preferred seating, $15 for adults on the ground, and $10 for children on the ground. Sunday tickets are $40 preferred seating, $20 for adults on the ground, and $15 for children on the ground. Tickets are available at City Drugstore Nevis and Digicel St. Kitts. It's energy for the 2024 TDC Track and Field Inter-School Championships. March 14th to March 17th at the Kim Collins Athletic Stadium and the Nevis Athletic Stadium. Sponsored by TDC, the Department of Sports St. Kitts, and the Department of Sports Nevis. Energy.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go on. And we are back here on Inside the News. And we are back here with the program. Yes, as promised, we have the representatives from the Athletics Association, and we'll be discussing the high school championships. Yes, I got it right, finally. So we have the Public Relations Officer, Ms. Patrice Harris, and the President of St. Kitts Nevis Athletics. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jermaine. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to everyone who can hear our voice in Radio Land.
Yes, good afternoon all.
Good. So, what's the latest in the world of athletics as you guys continue with the organizing of the multi-city, is that how I should put it? Yes.
Historic multi-city championship.
Yes. Yeah, let's start there. What's the latest in terms of preparations and so forth?
All right. We have established a local organizing committee, which would have been meeting from very early this year. And even as an executive, we have been meeting very regularly, recognizing some of the challenges that we have been faced with this year, having to host the meet in both St. Kitts and Nevis. We believe, just as we have dubbed it, that it is going to be historic indeed, not only because it's the first time that we're having the meet on both St. Kitts and Nevis, but it's also the first time that the meet is going to be for a duration of 4 days. As an association, we have decided to ensure that we place the necessary investment in the resources and development of not only athletes who are inclined in track, but also in field, meaning the javelin, the long jump, the shot put, the discus, just these activities that take place on the field. We know that most persons are always so hyped up about the 100-meter race or about the 800-meter. But as a organization, the executive of an organization, it was important for us to ensure that we invest more resources and time into the development of track, of field. Delway will speak a bit later as to how that has panned out for us and what are some of the grassroots initiatives that we have embarked on that has allowed us to recognize some success in that particular area. As it relates to the inter-school championships, it's not an ordinary year for many reasons. It has forced us to really stretch and to be able to think about all of the potential logistical issues and how we can mitigate them, going over to Nevis, having regular conversations with a team over there. All of our meets for the season have been held in Nevis from January until now, so we have become very familiar with some of the operations there. Delwyn?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we indeed have been working tirelessly in ensuring that all our T's are crossed and all our I's are dotted in hosting this historic meet. And we know that it is a challenge, and we, of course, are putting the necessary manpower and resources in place to ensure that the meet is not only a success, but incident-free as well, and ensuring that at the end of the day, track and field is the winner. As the PRO, Ms. Harris, alluded to earlier, in regards to the field events, we know that the field events are often overlooked, and so that we place what we started out as an academy, where every Saturday morning, including this morning, where we have athletes from both St. Kitts and Nevis from 9 a.m. from 9 to 11 a.m. We have them trained in different disciplines, being the javelin, the shot put, the high jump, the long jump, and we have seen that bear fruits in the sense that we have had some great marks. As it relates to our junior athletes, our top junior athletes have improved some so that we have had the most qualifiers in the field events to date, as a country at the character level, and so that speaks well to the program, that speaks well to the coaches, that speaks well to the athletes' dedication as well. And so we continue to forge ahead. In the afternoon, we do grassroots. We have grassroots running from 4 to 6 p.m. in different locations: Kim Collins, Keon, Verdchilds, Sadlers, and in Nevis. But we understand, though, that this week is a heavy track and field weekend, where we have the Nevis Inter-High School Championships running from today and tomorrow. There's the Verdchilds High School Sports tomorrow. There's the Keon High School Sports tomorrow. And I think there's some primary school. I think St. Paul's is today.
And Sadlers was yesterday.
Sadlers was yesterday. Newtown was yesterday. Beach Allen was the day before. And so we understand that we are at peak season in the track and field season, locally, that is. And so we want to ensure that all momentum garnered from these high school and primary school meets transfer into the high school championships, and 1 week later, of course, the Rams Primary School Championships.
Listen, you guys have basically summed up all of it for us there.
It's a lot that has been happening.
And I realized that. I mean, I didn't realize this week was actually all of that was actually happening this week. So how you guys have been keeping across all of this as an association?
Luckily for us, our local organizing committee, which is responsible for both the TDC Inter-High School Championships that's taking place in St. Kitts and Nevis the upcoming weekend, and the Rams Inter-Primary Championship, which is taking place the following weekend. That's going to be taking place at the Sandy Point Recreation Grounds. The local organizing committee includes persons outside of the executive, and so we have a team of, I think, about 11 or so more persons. It's probably more that are assisting. Especially, we have been receiving very great support from Nevis, from the Department of Sport, the PS, the director, and the minister on Nevis. We have been receiving very great support. We've also been receiving support and have been meeting very regularly with the Minister of Sport here on St. Kitts Nevis, the Federal Minister, Honorable Samuel Duggins, and his team at the Department of Sports, because we recognize that this isn't a challenge that we can overcome on our own. I can tell you, it's a lot. It's very demanding on our times. Just now, I saw the president, as I sat down, he was like, oh gosh, you look so tired. And we still have so much work to do, like this week that's coming up, the next 3 weekends. Because, Jermaine, the upcoming weekend is Inter-High School. The following weekend is Inter-Primary, and the weekend after that is Carifta.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it.
Neither do we.
You guys to do it.
Neither do we.
But let us look over at the organizing of the inter-high school, because that for me is one of the biggest challenges that you guys have immediately. Let's start first, because I know you guys have been receiving a lot of criticism from the public in terms of, and not you, but also the minister, in terms of the decision to send half the meat over to Nevis. I want you guys to explain, because I want to go behind the headline here. Explain to the public the decision and rationale behind hosting it, the multi-city event, because I think there's some misconception regarding this.
Okay, so as it relates to the inter-school championships, we know that the Kim Collins Stadium is under repairs, and that the track itself, the surface, is in need of replacement. And so in an effort to protect our athletes and for the safety of our athletes, we decided that it's best suited to have the inter-school championships at a site, that being in Nevis, where the track is favorable for the athletes. We understand as well these athletes don't just necessarily, majority of the athletes don't run one event. They run multiple events, and again they have heats and finals. And so the wear and tear on the legs, based on what we have seen at the stadium, could be harmful to the athletes. And so we, out of abundance of caution, we decided to have the meet in Nevis, as well as keeping, as the PRO said, that the character games, where a majority of the athletes will be participating in the inter-school, is just a few weeks after. And so we want to ensure that our athletes are best prepared, because this is the highest level of competition. This is the highest level of excitement that they will see as a precursor to the character games. And so we wanted to ensure that they are best prepared in this regard. And so the move from having it here in St. Kitts or any other venue here in St. Kitts to Nevis, I think was best suited for the athletes.
And I would agree with that, because you don't want to have the kids running on the grass surface and then have to, because you're not in tune, your body is not accustomed to that weeks out or a week out before the regional meet, where they have to run on the rubberized surface. So for me, that makes a lot of sense. There were also some concerns surrounding transportation back and forth from Nevis. How is that going to work, and in terms of accommodation?
Okay, the choice for the schools are responsible for taking care of their athletes up until when they get to the meet. And so even when the meet is hosted here in St. Kitts, we recognize that several schools will camp. The schools that come down from Nevis, they camp or have camped in recent years at the Marriott. The Bassi High School, they are camping. Typically, the Virtuous High School, they are camping. The Sadler Secondary School, they are camping. And so what we have tried, as much as is reasonably possible to do, is to encourage the schools to continue to camp, because that will make the logistical challenges that are foreseen a bit easier if the children are at a centralized place. At this point, there's only one school who has been able to succeed at camping in Nevis. There's the only school that will be camping in Nevis is the Charles E. Mills Secondary School. Some of the schools have decided to camp still, but camp here in St. Kitts. And so our transportation, which is the school bus, will take them from the Regga Beach Pier to their different camps. It looks as though majority of the schools will be camping in the Frigate Bay region, so that journey is not going to be as long from Reggae Beach to the different hotels that they're camping in the Frigate Bay and Bird Rock area. There are just about a few schools that are not camping, and the camping helps us a lot with the logistics. Now, in terms of logistics locally, meaning bus transport, as I've mentioned earlier, we have had all of our meets in Nevis for the year. So we have had many opportunities to test it out, how long it takes to get from the O'Valley Pier to the Mundo track, how efficient we can make that process, how quickly can the buses start to leave prior to the official completion of the meet as the children get there, how orderly the process is in terms of getting them on the boat, and then that 7-minute journey over to St. Kitts, and then another school bus is there waiting for them to take them over. We have been doing very well in terms of being able to reduce that congestion on both piers, especially as it relates to our athletes. We have been having several conversations. We have the police, that is a part of our local organizing committee. We have been having conversations with the boat providers, and that's a conversation that we'll still continue to have, because safety is a number one priority, and I imagine that is where a lot of the public concerns are coming from. And that's the reason why we chose to use the Reggae Beach and the O'Valley Pier, because the journey is much shorter. It's just 7 minutes. So we don't have the children on the water for a very long time. The buses are there waiting, and then we have liaison officers in Nevis as well. So the schools will be able to stay together and be transported together. So yes, in addition to the ordinary challenges of being able to organize the inter-high school event, we now have to become these logistic managers to be able to get it done.
Okay, parents were also asking about the arrangements for them to go back and forth for Nevis, because I know you guys are primarily focusing on the athletes, but is there any consideration for the parents and so forth?
Yes, so we would have contacted the same boat providers who are providing transportation for the athletes, and they have indicated that, both of them have indicated that they can do $40 round trip at the Reggae Beach area, $40 round trip from Reggae Beach to Oali and Oali to Reggae Beach. Also, we have engaged private security that will be stationed at the Reggae Beach to ensure the safety of persons, vehicles while they are in Nevis. Also, we have had conversations with the Nevis Bus Association, who has indicated that it will be $5 from the Charlestown Pier to the track in Nevis, and $10 from the Wally Pier to the track in Nevis. That's one way. And so we have ensured that we take into consideration the spectators, because we know without the spectators, the meet would just not be the same. Also, there would be a designated area for the buses, the passenger buses, on site or close to on site in Nevis, to take persons either back to the Nevis, the ferry terminal in Charlestown, or to Wally again at the end of the meet. So again, we have taken into consideration the spectators, and we want to ensure them that we have not left you out with all our planning and conversations.
I think one of the things, sorry, that you needed to mention was the conversation we were having with the boat providers from the Bastia Ferry Terminal and the Charlestown Pier, because there's some persons who might have difficulty or don't want to go to Reggae Beach. So we have engaged those.
Yes,
as
we
well.
have engaged those service providers in the Charlestown Bastia Ferry Terminal, who would be transporting as well and making their usual runs. And if they need to make extra runs, they are prepared to do so immediately after the meet.
Okay, someone is asking the question. Just message me. In terms of the buses in St. Kitts, especially for Sunday evening, is there any arrangements? Because depending on what time the meet finishes, that's the other question. Sundays are oftentimes difficult in terms of getting some buses to maybe work a bit later in the evening and so forth.
That's in Charlestown?
No, in St.
I mean,
Kitts.
St. Kitts, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought in Bastia or Reggae Beach?
Bastia itself.
We have reached out to a few bus drivers who have indicated that they will be prepared. One in particular has indicated that they will be willing to make runs from the Bastia area to Reggae Beach if needs be as well. And so his price point is $20 from Bastia to Reggae Beach, which is reasonable, I think. When you come, I know persons were saying, hey, all these costs from bus to boat to bus to entry fee. But if persons have realized that even the entry fee for the interschool is reduced. And so we wanted to ensure that persons, we don't pass on the extra the increased cost of having the meeting in Nevis to our loyal spectators.
And one of the things that we have tried to ensure, I picked up my phone to pull up the schedule, is to get the meet to be finished as early as possible. We're not expecting to have the usual 9 and 10 o'clock, because we know we have to now factor in getting the students on a boat from Reggae Beach into Bastia and into Figure Bay area. So we are looking, the final event should start at about 7:40 on the Sunday night, and the final event on this Saturday should start at about 6 o'clock. So we are looking at definitely much earlier end times, looking at really imploring upon our officiating team to try to keep the meet as tight as possible. We still want this marquee event to be attractive for our patrons to attend, primarily because this event is what allows us to fund our upcoming year. And the majority of the funds from this event is what we use to take our team to Carifta. We have some very good prospects for Carifta this year. Even outside of Carifta, we have meets throughout the year that we hope to be able to get our athletes participating in. And the Inter-School Championships is one of our largest fundraising initiative. Now, I know that people are thinking that we are really taking into consideration the finances and making decisions based on finances, and that is not the case. I will say to you that we are already aware that there is a potential that we are going to receive a reduction in revenue at the gate, just because it's a Nevis and some persons might be hesitant to bear all of this additional cost. Now, in considering that, as the president mentioned, we reduced the entrance fee. We know that it's a very difficult year, and we are prepared to be able to do whatever it is that's necessary in terms of additional fundraising, because I'll tell you this, Jermaine, it was 3 options. It was take the meet in St. Kitts and Nevis collectively, take it down to the Sandy Point Recreational Grounds, which would have not been ideal, or to not host it at all. And to not host it at all was one that we wrangled with for a very long time, because we understand how that could be a deterrent and how that could set persons back. We are really struggling in order to be able to keep our athletes in track and field, because sometimes some of the other sports seem more attractive to them. Now, if there is a year where you can't be the top boy and the top girl and be able to get your gold medals, and the other sports are there and you can participate, the athletes sometimes will do that, and we don't want that to happen. So we are prepared, regardless of how difficult this has been for us as an executive and a local organizing committee to make these tough decisions and go back and forth and always be having a meeting with different stakeholders. At the end of the day, we recognize that we are the governing body for track and field in St. Kitts and Nevis, and at the core of that, our priority is our athletes. So there's never on the table at any point in time any other priority than our athletes.
That's true. And just to further support the point and going back to safety, we have scheduled a meeting with our boat operators and the Department of Marine Resources or Maritime Resources. That will be on Tuesday. We have already engaged the Coast Guard, ensuring that they are on hand and they are up to date as to our plans and our schedule, as well as we have doctors assigned at the different ports for the athletes while they disembark the vessels, because we understand that some may be a little wheezy or queasy after the journey, and we wanted to ensure that they are taken care of immediately after the journey. So we have stationed doctors at Wally and at Reggae Beach, along with hydration stations at these ports, to ensure that the athletes are as comfortable as possible back and forth.
Someone was also asking whether or not you guys are going to be streaming the event and if there will be a cost attached to it as a means of garnering revenue for the association.
As it relates, we are still in the final stages of the streaming. We would probably have an answer for the general public by midweek, I would say, by midweek this week, the upcoming week, on the streaming venture. We understand as well that it is could be an additional cost, and as the PRO alluded to earlier, that we understand that perhaps we won't receive as much at the gates as we usually do. But nonetheless, we want to ensure that the spectators who usually support, it might be the seasoned supporter who is unable to travel over to Nevis, and we want them to be a part of the excitement as well, and to support from the comfort of their home, their grandchild or their great niece or whatever the case is. And so we are definitely taking that into consideration as we go through the different stages of the planning process.
I know the people in Sandy Point, they're going to abuse me for saying this, but I think you guys need an entire boat or an ark for the Sandy Point crew, because it seems as though they're going to come to support the Charles E. Mills.
Yes, and I want to take this opportunity now to encourage persons to come to the meet. There is a lot of negative criticisms, a lot of public speculation, and we don't want that to cast a shadow of doubt over these athletes who have been training for so long. Recall that this group of athletes who are in high school now, they would have been set back, so to speak, because there were about 2 years of COVID and we couldn't have the meets for this time. So this group is one that we are very excited about. The Nevis contingent, they come down every year. They make the arrangements to come down to support their students, their children, their neighbors who are participating in the meet. Yes, it's the first time we are going to have to go over to Nevis for a track and field meet, but I think it's going to be a very exciting one.
I sorry to interrupt, but I don't believe it's a fair criticism that people are making when that's being leveled to the association and the government in general, because as Delvin alluded to, the track is in desperate need of repairs, right? I know there's still talk about St. Kitts possibly holding the Carifta Games again sometime in the near future, right? But you can't hold major regional events and sub-regional events on dilapidated facility that really needed upgrades. The seats were broken and so forth. So I don't believe that the criticisms were justified, one. But two, when you go to some regional events and international events, you have to venture long distances to get to do your events. And then when you as a former national athlete, you could speak to something like that. You know, it's not a case where, you know, you're just doing maybe a 10-minute boat ride or a 45-minute boat ride to Nevis. You have to travel extremely long distances. From the Olympics, you might have to travel to the athletes' village, or from the airport, even if I know you attended the World Championships in Eugene, and the traveling alone to get to the facility is ridiculous. So I don't think that criticism is fair.
Yeah. Yes, it would be new, but as Patrice said, that we have had the majority of our meets in Nevis, and so a vast majority of the athletes that will be participating have taken this journey week in and week out without any anxiety. But again, we want to ensure that all our checks and balances are in place. And so having these test runs, at least understanding, say, hey, and we don't even know the accommodation situation in Grenada. We might be staying, from what I understand, there's different satellite venues in Grenada. And so having to travel probably far distances because it's in a bigger country. It's not like St. Kitts where everything is near. And so having that feel, you know, you just have to shop. You know, you just have to shop. Regardless, nobody's going to sorry for you because, oh, well, you had to travel on board. Or the Nevisians is not going to sorry for the Kittitians because they have to come up on board. Vice versa, the Kittitians never used to sorry for the Nevisians when they used to come down on board, because all of us line up and it's time to go. Just like in track and field, nobody cares that you were injured 2 weeks ago and you're just coming back. You line up, so that means you're ready to go. And so if you're ready to go, let's go. No excuses.
But I don't want it to come across as though we're not empathetic to
of course.
some of the
That's me speaking as a former athlete.
Yes, but as a president.
Yeah, but as a president.
And representing the executive, we have taken into consideration not only the health, but one of the reasons why we have decided not to cancel this meet is because of the impact it can have on the psychosocial support of a child. To be preparing for all this time. From September, they're up at the stadium, they're training in their different areas. We have grassroots programs, etc. And then the time now for you to compete, we can't have a meet again. That can be very devastating to a child, and that is why, because we know for certain we are dealing with children, and children process and deal with situations a bit differently from adults. We don't want to introduce that level of disappointment. So hey, it's harder for us, it's more money for us, it's more time for us, it's more meetings and getting more persons on board, but it's still a challenge that we stepped up to. I think as an executive, we have been faced with so many challenges, because this executive also had to deal with the COVID era and constantly having to go back and forth to the task force and lobbying for, hey, let's let them train. Hey, let's have a small meet. Hey, how can we get it done? And we have had these challenges and we have been able to overcome. So let's remove all of the negative stigma that's associated with this upcoming meet. And we still have to talk about the Rams Inter-Primary that's taking place in Sandy Point and the challenges, the perceived challenges. There's no built up accommodation there, what you're accustomed to at Kim Collins. But does that mean that you're not going to go out and support the meet? We see these primary schools having so many fundraisers, because I think we all got like a stunning match pass this year. Right? Like the kids are going to be so well decked out in these track gear. We're seeing donations, fundraisers for track. I think you got track suit competition coming. What we ain't about?
Yeah, I think so. I got some one views. Somebody sent me some one views, and I can't believe this is happening.
And that's on the primary school
and
end.
Primary school.
Jermaine, you're laughing, but it's a serious thing. When there's whatever is this inter-school competition that's going on in the federation, not only in track and field, it's exciting. Like, it make me want to go back to school because there's so much preparation. Principals and the schools and the teams are actively fundraising, and that is why we couldn't do it. So the third option of cancellation wasn't one that was immediately on the table for us. It was like, how are we going to get it done?
I think what this has shown us, because this is the major, when you look across the scholastic events and scholastic season, this is the major the computation for both high school and primary schools, because you have the football competition, but it's not as big as the track and field. I mean, we in tennis, we have our events, but it's not as big as track and field. But as we prepare for this, what's the expectations for the association from the athlete's perspective when we look ahead to this specific event?
The expectation is very high for the athletes. I mean, as Patrick said, that they have been training for quite some time, and what we have seen, even at the primary school level, because there's still a few high school meets still to go, but what I've noticed at the primary school level, even at the private primary school level, we have seen the increased participation of athletes and not participating just to fill a lane. We have seen all lanes fill and all persons lined up vying for top positions. And this speaks well to the advancement of the sport, the dedication of the athletes and their parents, because a number of these parents have signed up their children for different clubs so that they can be training regularly. And so we expect nothing but the same while when this melting pot comes together, whether it be at the high school level, whether it be at the primary school level, because athletes, parents, coaches are now understanding that, hey, I just can't get up and run fast. It takes more than that. Gone are the days where you say, he look fast, put him to run. That can't do it anymore. That type of notion is out the window. You have to put in the work, and they have been putting in the work. And we have seen, for instance, I went to the private school championship, and the private school, in all fairness, was lackluster over the years. But this year and last year, we have seen real rivalry, real stiff competition. And I won't be surprised if the fastest male and the fastest female comes out of the private school at the primary school championship, because they have been putting in their work. You can't take your eye of course, off of the defending champions. They have been putting in their work as well as those schools in the rural areas. And so it begs to wonder, and is only one way we can find out if we show up. That's the only way we'll know.
And it's much better when you're an athlete. I mean, I've never ran, so I don't even know how I end up in track and field. I always ask myself this question.
Love my sport.
It's much better when you have a crowd there cheering you on.
Of course.
It really gives you that, yeah, man, let we go.
Yes.
And you see the parents just there, just cheering the children on.
Every track meet, you're hearing the announcers. Parents, stay off the track. Better than they just say, parents, you can't go on the track. Because they're right by the thing with a flag, let we go, and they're going down the line with them, running. Oh, my God. I
mean, and we saw that at the football, because I was covering the football recently, and there was this parent down there, and I believe, other than what was going on in the field, I think she was the center of attention. No, because she was there, and all eyes were on her, because she was so vocal. She was cheering on her son, right? And she just grabbed our attention. But guys, just hold on. I have to take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll jump and talk about the Rams championship.
All right.
The Kim Collins Athletic Stadium and the Nevis Athletic Stadium will be energized by SKN's top athletes for the 2024 TDC Track and Field Inter-School Championship. Be a part of the historic multi-city event when SKN Athletics bring you 4 days of track and field on Thursday, March 14th and Friday, March 15th at the Kim Collins Athletic Stadium, and Saturday, March 16th and Sunday, March 17th at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. Saturday tickets are $30 preferred seating, $15 for adults on the ground, and $10 for children on the grounds. Sunday tickets are $40 preferred seating, $20 for adults on the ground, and $15 for children on the grounds. Tickets are available at City Drugstore Nevis and Digicel St. Kitts. It's energy, energy, energy for the 2024 TDC Track and Field Inter-School Championships. March 14th to March 17th at the Kim Collins Athletic Stadium and the Nevis Athletic Stadium. Sponsored by TDC, the Department of Sports St. Kitts, and the Department of Sports Nevis. Energy!
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects or sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And we are back here on Inside the News. So we are discussing athletics and the upcoming Rams Primary School Championships and the TDC High School Championships. And we have with us President Delwayne Delaney and PRO Patrice Harris. Yes. And yes, just give us a bit more insight in terms of preparations for the primary school championships and what's your expectations for that?
Yes, so the primary school championships, as I was saying before we left the last segment, is that is one that is, highly anticipated. We have seen the increased participation in athletes at the primary school level, and so we are hopeful that these athletes will showcase their talent, their skills, not only in the running event, but the jumping and the throwing events to show what they have. We have seen real good prospects for the high school level. I know some schools are already eyeing, some high schools are already eyeing some of these athletes and saying, hey, I would like he or I would like she to come to our high school. And so it's almost becoming like a Jamaica type situation where recruitment is now a thing here in St. Kitts and Nevis as it relates to athletics. So we are hopeful and we are looking forward for exciting Rams Primary School Championship. All systems are go for the Sandy Point Recreational Ground. It poses the best option for us, having to be on a 400-meter track. We understand as well a lot of the primary school athletes participate barefooted, and so we wanted to ensure that their footing is as best as possible, and being on a suitable surface. So the Sandy Point Recreational Ground, the weekend after, well, not necessarily the weekend, because we won't be competing on the Sunday, because we were advised by the Ministry of Education that the following Monday, the following day, is exams, and so we have altered the championship to end on Saturday. So we are going Thursday at the Kim Collins Stadium, where we'll have the field events, Friday at the Sandy Point Recreational Ground, and Saturday at the Recreational Ground.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to just implore on persons that, yes, the persons who just might not be able to fully understand, we're having some activities at Kim Collins and we're having some at different venues. What we're using at Kim Collins is the field to be able to have the jumps and the throws. So the main challenge why we could not have hosted the entire meets at that venue is because of the track. So the field events for TDC Inter High School will be taking place on Thursday and Friday. This coming Thursday and Friday. That's the 13 or 14, 15, 6. Okay. 14, 15, Kim Collins, St. Kitts, and 16, 17, Nevis Athletic Stadium, Nevis. So just so that we are here to provide the clarity. I think a lot of clarity has been missed and people have their own perceptions, and we're here to provide the clarity. I don't know if Jermaine is going to be taking any callers, but we definitely want to provide the clarity.
Yes. So, in terms of movements, logistics, to getting the teams to Sandy Point and so forth, what's been going on there?
And it will be the same. Usually, schools are transported from their school, and so basically for the schools on the western side of the island, it will be a short journey to the Sandy Point Recreational Ground. Schools in the eastern side of the island and the town area, Bastia area, will have to then journey down to Sandy Point. And so it will be the same setup. The bus drivers, which are the school bus drivers, have been doing this for numerous years, and so they have it down to a science. Ruben and his team has it down to a science. You know, when we, as Patrick said, going back to the high school championship, when we come down from Nevis, they say, hey, all who going east, this bus. All who going west, this bus. The town and Monkhill area, this is your bus. And so they have it down to a science in terms of the teamwork and logistics. And so we expect the same come for the Rams Primary Championships.
I want to also express to person, just again for clarity, that there are no tickets that are going to be sold for the Rams Inter-Primary meet. We're just accepting the admission at the gate. There are no tickets, and that's primarily because there is no way to kind of have that segregation, like, okay, preferred seating, stands or stadium. The entrance cost is the same. There is no differentiation. It's just adult and child prices that we look up. I'll pull up the poster quickly with the prices to let you know. Also, we have the tickets for the inter-high school. They have been live online since earlier this week, and the physical tickets have started selling today. We have started selling those tickets at City Drugstore Nevis, and we will provide a further update as to the physical ticket sales in St. Kitts. Now, please, if you have the ability, I will encourage you to purchase your tickets online. That gives you the most security and surety that you will get your preferred seating over at Nevis. Don't wait until later or waiting on the physical tickets. They are available online. I know sometimes we have some hesitancy with using online, but the platform is secure. It is safe. It is one that has been used. We're using the Agile platform for many different events. And I will encourage persons, get your ticket now. Don't wait until too late. If you're still trying to make up your mind, think about the children. It's going to be an exciting track meet. Come out and support your schools. Come out and support your schools.
Yes, just for further clarification as well, the preferred seating is available and grounds. Now, grounds includes standing on the grounds, that's in Nevis I'm speaking to, as well as the metal seating. Now, the preferred seating is the limited seating that speaks to the finish line. That's the best seat in the house, so to speak. That's the finish line seating. That's what we call in the preferred seating. And they are very limited. There's about
around there.
Yeah, about 300. Yes. About 300 capacity. And so you have to move on them fast. And then all other seating is termed grounds. Mm-hmm. So what you will see is that in Nevis where the vendors are usually, that's grounds. The vending will be on the back side of the stadium to allow more persons to be occupying that space over there where they usually are. And so that is grounds. The metal seating is grounds. Only the first section of the metal stands that's by the finish line is preferred seating.
And we wanna, I'll just speak about the ticket prices, and you, from the time I start calling them out, you'll recognize how reduced they are. On the Saturday, preferred seating is $30. Grounds for adults is $15, and grounds for children is $10. Preferred seating cost is applicable for adults and children. On the Sunday, the preferred seating is $40. The grounds is $20, and the grounds for children is $15. Nevis has the ability to accommodate vehicles to drive in. You can actually stay in your vehicle for the duration of the meet. So if you choose to do that, you will pay an additional $15 for the vehicle, but each person will still have to pay his or her admission fee. So again, $30 and $40 to see the marquee event for track and field for the year is very cost effective, very affordable. Even though we're bearing a bit more cost, we have decided to reduce the cost at the gate.
That sounds very reasonable this year around. I think everyone should come out. I think everyone should come out and support the young athletes. Like I said, parents, the kids love the support, right? When you see your mother or your father in the stands jumping off you, it gives you an added boost. It sends the adrenaline, gets it going, sort of thing, right? I mean, I just cheer for the neutral person, so I just shout for no reason, right? But
I wanted to speak about the Rams, the ticket prices. Adults $15 on the Friday, children $10 on the Saturday, adults $20 and children $15. And just a reminder, there will not be any competitions taking place on the Sunday because the children have exams on the Monday. So the Rams Interprimary meet takes place Thursday 21st March, Friday 22nd March, and Saturday 23rd March.
Okay, and I know as we begin to wind down the program, I want to get from you guys, in terms of development of young people and young athletes, what has the association been doing regarding, especially the young athletes in the grassroots level, the primary school level, to get them to transition to the next level, because the question keeps coming up. We have potential athletes, but the potential dies, and Patrice, you alluded to this a little bit. They're being pulled in different directions for various sports. But in terms of getting them to remain in track and field, because this is no secret. We're basically chasing after the Jamaicans when it comes to track and field, right? We're also chasing after the Trinidadians. In the distance running, we're chasing after, anyways, don't say that, Jermaine. I was going to sound bad, but we're chasing after the Guyanese athletes in the distance events, right? What's being done to develop that cadre of athletes that we can look forward to in the next generation?
Yes, good question. As it relates to the athletes that we have identified and those who are interested, as I said earlier, we are hosting a series of academies and grassroots programs that is happening every Saturday from 9 to 11. That's the older athletes, the high school athletes, what we call the academy, and in various events, long jump, high jump, javelin, shot put, some running events as well, and we'll see the inclusion of the hurdles. And from the grassroots, from 4 to 6 at the different locations, being Kim Collins, Sadlers, Virchilds, Keon, and in Nevis. And so we have seen the inclusion and the increased attendance of these programs, which you have seen bear fruit over the duration of the program life so far. What we have been striving to do as well to get persons on the next level, introduce to them the pathway for success. They must see the division, especially as they reach the high school level. What can keep them in the track and field for a longer period after the high school days, and so having persons attached where they can see to get to the college and the university level is very important. We are hopeful to have at least one scout flying for the inter-school championship, and they're paying to flying for the inter-school championship. A head coach from the University of Oklahoma, as well as our athletes rep. And from an executive standpoint, she is in charge of disseminating the results from the high school championships to a number of coaches and potential schools for these athletes. And so we are not standing by idly and twiddling our thumbs and hopeful that something will fall in our lap. We are actually being proactive in ensuring that these athletes are given the opportunity to be successful in track and field, whether to be a professional athlete or to attain their degrees.
What we see more of happening as well is that we're trying to encourage our athletes to enroll in clubs. What we tend to recognize is that there might be a fall off if there's just a reliance on, okay, I'm with my school team. But if you enroll in clubs, because the majority of our meets outside of our scholastic meets our clubs are who compete in them. So once we get our athletes to enroll in clubs, hopefully we will see them be able to advance to the next levels, because they have coaches, they are constantly practicing, they're constantly competing, and they can be able to materialize that success rather than just, hey, you look like you could run a good 400, you could run it for your school sports day, you win, okay, let's go into school. Just more of taking it away from an ad hoc approach to actively training. I'm seeing a lot of parents, even on the primary school level, sending their children to train every Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, whatever days it is, train, enroll in a club, and they're coming out to our different development meets. That is why it's important that we continue to have these meets so that they're constantly competing, improving upon their times. The grassroots program, they came out of the grants that we got from World Athletics. Would have also appointed a director of coaching, Mr. Alonzo Wilkerson, within the last year, and we are seeing some of the fruits of some of that labor that he has been putting out in terms of developing strategic programs and having squads that can be able to compete internationally. We work very closely with the SKNOC as well. They provide additions in terms of resources and funding so that we can be able to keep these athletes. We know it's a fight, and we hope that even from the end of the scholastic and being able to get scholarships to go off to school is one that will be able to entice them.
How much do you guys utilize those athletes who would have traveled overseas, who would have received scholarships, who would have benefited from these scholastic meets to speak to and influence the young athletes instead of get words of motivation, tell their experience, so to prevent those young athletes from falling away and choosing other sports?
Well, what we have seen is that a lot of these same athletes are embedded in the clubs. So myself, we have Virgil, we have Maritza, we have Tanika, Marcy, who is the athletes rep. And so although not on a one-off, but every day whenever we meet with our athletes, we keep enforcing the point, say, hey, you need to take this serious, you have good potential, you can get scholarships, you can enhance the life of yourself and your family. And so having that discourse and constant interaction with these athletes holds well for the athletes and the upcoming athletes. Our athletes here who would have been exposed to that level of competition, whether at the university level or the Olympic level, have not, have been still being active in ensuring that the athletes that are to come are motivated.
Okay, we're kind of out of time, so I'll give you guys, about 2 minutes to each one of you 2 minutes to, just speak about the upcoming meets and, implore people to come out.
All right, I'll start first. I want to take this opportunity to thank, really from the bottom of our hearts, our two tightest sponsors, being the Rams and TDC group of companies. They have been with us every step of the way sometimes they're the one who are initiating, guys, let's start to have the conversations. They have been very, very good partners with us. And it's not even only when it's the time for their meets. We can count on these sponsors throughout the year to help us with a lot of our programming that's taking place or something that we want to do. So we really want to thank Rams for being a part of the primary school championships for so many years. It was first the Milo meet, and now it's the Rams championships. We want to thank TDC as well, because without them, we could not be able to materialize and to have these meets. These meets are very costly. Transportation costs us a lot. Having the tents, all of these things, they are very costly. The meals are very costly, and that is why sponsorship is very important. We also want to thank the Department of Sports in Nevis, and the NIA has always been a great partner to the SKN Athletics, especially when it comes to funding and any assistance that we need. We have really hardly ever been told no for the requests that we have made. We want to thank the Minister and the Department of Sports here in St. Kitts and the PS and the directors, because they have been on board as well. We have been emailing, we have been meeting regularly, and we could not be able to materialize anything without them being on board and giving us the relevant permission. We do have some new sponsors that should be coming on board soon, and they continue to help us to execute as an organization. I implore you as a public, let's take away the negativity from the conversation about the different meets that are taking place, primarily the one that's coming up next weekend in St. Kitts and Nevis. Go out and support your athletes. Go out and support your children. They are taking steps in the right direction to be positively minded, to be well-rounded, and to be well-balanced. And the least that we can do is to go out and support them. It's not an easy decision. It's not really a decision where anybody really wins. All of us have to bend a bit, and we have to be flexible. And you would have hoped that coming out of COVID, we would have learned to be a bit more adaptable to changes. And I think that as a people, we are truly resilient. So I know that we can count on you to come out and support the children. We, very shortly, as early as next week, will be able to start speaking to the public about our plans for Carifta. We have some very good prospects. So Jeremy will be back. We have some very good prospects and a very good team that we hope to be sending down to Grenada. And hopefully we're going to be able to bring some supporters and patrons with us once we get through with some of the plans that we're working on. I'll stay here because I won't leave anything for the president to speak about if I keep talking. But I will stay here and just ask you to come on board with track and field. It's a fun sport. It's a very rewarding sport.
Yes. In my wrap-up, on a more somber note, want to send condolences again to the Henry family over there, who would have lost a former athlete in Jamie Henry, who would have, and as well as the Sadler student. Of course, we sympathize with the families of these two individuals, and we want to ensure that you have our full support on these matters. As the PRO said, we want you guys to come on out and support track and field in a big way. Track is back. It's better than ever. We are definitely in for a treat this weekend and the following weekend. So back to back, like Chicago Bulls back in the 90s. And so don't let anybody tell you about it. Don't let anybody come and say, boy, you should have come. Girl, you should have been there. Make it a promise to yourself that say, hey, I've never missed inter-school in 20 plus years, and this ain't going to be the year I'm going to miss it. Once you have good health and strength, make your way to the Kim Collins Stadium Thursday and Friday, which is free admission. So there's no charge to witness the field events. And as I said to someone, you can't win the championship on Thursday and Friday, but you can certainly lose the championship on Thursday and Friday. So you need to come on out and support your schools on Thursday and Friday at the Kim Collins Stadium. And then to top it off, journey with your team to Nevis, and for the Nevis contingent, come down on Thursday and Friday to support Gingerland and Charlestown, and welcome us as we come over to...
Yes, welcome us with open
arms, right.
You know, you hear people talk about like when the Union Jack came down and how proud they were to see our flag going up.
Yeah.
I think in years to come, that's what they're going to talk about this inter-school. I was there when there was inter-school in St. Kitts and in Nevis.
It'll be a debate. What year it was? That wasn't 2024, but now it was 23. No, it was 2 years. Yeah, it's going to be a debate.
That type of history we're trying to create at this historic multi-city championships.
All right, guys, there you had it. Go out and support the young athletes. I should be there. Let me put in my plug. I should be there. So I will be there covering the event as well. So do go out and support for the next 3 weekends and even the weekend after that. Even if there's no thing, just go out and support athletics. So on that note, I was German Abel sitting in today on Inside the News. It was our sports edition. For the first half, we heard from the Garden Hotspurs team and what they've been doing in the community of McKnight after they received the support of Skellex. So in that regard, do enjoy the rest of your weekend. Until next time, I'm German Abel signing off.